If you are an INFJ who has ever felt the weight of your own depth, who has wished for a simpler way of being, who has longed to be anyone but yourself, this story is yours. You are not alone in that wish, and you are not wrong for feeling it. There is a peculiar burden that comes with being an INFJ, a weight that settles into your bones long before you have the language to name it. It begins in childhood, perhaps when you first realize that the world inside your head does not match the world around you. While other children played without questioning the rules, you wondered why the rules existed at all. While they accepted surface explanations, you excavated deeper meanings, unearthing connections that no one asked you to find. You learned quickly that your questions made people uncomfortable, that your observations cut too close to truths they preferred to keep buried. And so you learned to hide, not because you wanted to, but because the alternative was isolation of a different kind. This is the first weight, the knowledge that your natural way of seeing makes you strange, and that strangeness carries a price. Carl Jung wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, but he did not mention that for some, that privilege feels more like a sentence. To be an INFJ is to carry an awareness that most people do not want, to see patterns in human behavior that others miss or choose to ignore. You notice when someone's words contradict their body language. You feel the emotional currents in a room before anyone speaks. You understand the unspoken reasons why relationships fracture, why people sabotage their own happiness, and why the same painful patterns repeat across generations. This perceptiveness is not a superpower, though it is often romanticized as such. It is a lens you cannot remove, a frequency you cannot unhear. And the exhaustion of it accumulates over years, until one day you find yourself wishing you could be anyone else, anyone simpler, anyone who could move through life, without feeling everything so deeply. The second weight is the weight of other people's emotions, which you absorb, without meaning to, without wanting to, but cannot seem to stop. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, that vast reservoir of shared human experience and archetype. But for the INFJ, it is not merely a theoretical concept. It is a lived reality. You walk into a room and immediately sense the tension between two colleagues who have not spoken their conflict aloud. You sit with a friend who insists they are fine, but you feel their despair like a fog settling over your own chest. You watch a stranger on the train and construct their entire inner world from the slump of their shoulders, the way they avoid eye contact, the worn edges of their coat. This is not empathy in the soft, comforting sense that people celebrate. This is something closer to what the ancient Greeks called pathos, a suffering with, a feeling alongside that does not distinguish between your pain and theirs. You become a repository for sorrows you did not create, a witness to struggles you cannot solve. And the cruelty of it is that people sense this capacity in you even when you try to hide it. They are drawn to you the way the wounded are drawn to light, seeking solace, seeking understanding, seeking someone who will finally see them as they truly are. You become the confidant, the counselor, the one who listens, while others unburden themselves of secrets they have told no one else. And you do this willingly, because your nature compels you toward healing, toward helping, toward making meaning of suffering. But no one asks what it costs you to hold all of that, to carry the weight of their unburdening while they walk away lighter, and you remain heavy with what they have left behind. There is a reason why the archetype of the wounded healer appears across cultures and throughout history. Chiron, the centaur of Greek mythology, was struck by a poisoned arrow that caused him eternal suffering, yet his wound gave him the knowledge to heal others. He could never heal himself. The INFJ understands this paradox intimately. You help others process their pain, but your own pain remains unprocessed, unwitnessed, because to share it would require finding someone with the same depth of perception you possess, and those people are rare, perhaps rarer than you. The third weight is the weight of potential unfulfilled, of roads not taken, of selves you might have been if you had been born different. The INFJ lives with a constant awareness of possibility, of the gap between what is and what could be. You see the potential in people, in situations, in yourself, and that vision is both a gift and a torment. You meet someone, and immediately perceive, not who they are, but who they could become, and you invest your energy into coaxing that potential into being. You enter a project or a relationship or a career with a clear vision of what it could become at its highest expression, and you work tirelessly toward that vision, even when no one else shares it. But reality is stubborn. People resist change, even when it would save them. Situations are constrained by forces beyond your control. And your own potential, that vast inner landscape of what you could achieve if only circumstances were different, remains largely unexplored, because you are too busy holding space for everyone else. Nietzsche wrote of the Übermensch, the individual who transcends conventional morality to create their own values. But the INFJ is caught in a different struggle. You are not trying to transcend the world, you are trying to transform it, to heal it, to make it worthy of the vision you carry. And the world does not want to be transformed. It wants to remain comfortable, predictable, and safe. So you find yourself perpetually disappointed, not because your standards are too high, but because you can see so clearly what things could be, if only people would try. This is perhaps the deepest source of your wish to be someone else. You are tired of seeing potential that will never be realized. You are tired of caring about things that no one else seems to notice. You are tired of the gap between your inner world and the outer world, a gap that never closes, no matter how hard you work to bridge it. You look at people who seem content with surface pleasures, who do not question, who do not seek, who simply are, and you envy them with a ferocity that surprises you. What would it be like, you wonder, to not care so much? What would it be like to live without this constant sense of responsibility for making meaning, for finding purpose, for helping others become their best selves? What would it be like to exist without the weight of your own consciousness pressing down on you every moment of every day? But here is the truth that no one tells you, the truth that you need to hear even if it does not ease the burden. You cannot be anyone else, and the wish to be different is itself a betrayal of your purpose. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote that, quote, "To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily, but not to dare is to lose oneself." You are an INFJ because the world needs what you carry, even when it does not recognize that need, even when it punishes you for offering it. Your depth is not a flaw to be corrected. Your perceptiveness is not a wound to be healed. Your exhaustion is not evidence that you are doing life wrong. It is evidence that you are doing something most people cannot do, that you are seeing what most people cannot see, that you are feeling what most people have learned to numb themselves against. The ancient Greeks had a word, metanoia, which means a transformative change of heart, a fundamental shift in perception. It is often translated as repentance, but its deeper meaning is about seeing differently, about turning toward a truth you have been avoiding. For the INFJ, the necessary metanoia is this: you must stop seeing your nature as a burden, and begin seeing it as a calling. Not in the religious sense, though it can include that, but in the sense that you have been given a particular way of being in the world, and that way of being serves a purpose larger than your own comfort. You are the one who sees patterns. You are the one who makes connections. You are the one who holds space for transformation, even when transformation is painful, even when no one thanks you for it. This is not about martyrdom or self-sacrifice. It is about recognition. You wish you were not an INFJ because you have been taught to see your gifts as problems, your depth as excessive, and your needs as too much. But what if the problem is not you? What if the problem is a culture that valorizes surface over substance, speed over depth, comfort over growth? The fourth weight is the weight of misunderstanding, of being perpetually unseen in the very act of seeing others so clearly. There is a loneliness particular to the INFJ, a loneliness that persists even in the midst of connection, because the connections you form are often one-sided. You understand others deeply, but they cannot understand you, because the architecture of your inner world is too complex, too layered, and too different from what they know. You have learned to translate yourself into simpler terms, to offer only the parts of your thinking that others can grasp, to hide the full extent of your perceptions, because revealing them would overwhelm or alienate. This is the loneliness of the translator, the one who speaks a language no one else knows, who must constantly convert their thoughts into a more accessible dialect, and the exhaustion of that translation, performed day after day, year after year, accumulates until you are not sure where the translation ends and your authentic self begins. Jung spoke of the persona, the mask we wear to navigate the social world. But for the INFJ, the persona is not a simple mask. It is a complex performance, carefully calibrated to make others comfortable, to hide the full intensity of what you perceive and feel. You learn early that people are frightened by too much insight, that they prefer their illusions intact, that they will punish you for seeing through the stories they tell themselves. And so you learn to soften your observations, to couch your truths in gentle language, to pretend you do not notice what you notice. This is not dishonesty exactly. It is a form of kindness, a recognition that not everyone is ready for the unfiltered truth. But it is also a form of self-erasure, and over time the cost becomes unbearable. You wish you were not an INFJ because you wish someone would see you the way you see others, with that same penetrating clarity, that same willingness to embrace complexity rather than demand simplicity. The fifth weight is the weight of your own shadow, that dark twin of your gifts that you have not yet integrated. Jung taught that the shadow contains everything we have repudiated about ourselves, the traits and desires we consider unacceptable, as well as the parts of our nature we have cast into darkness. For the INFJ, the shadow is particularly dangerous, because you have spent so much energy developing your capacity for insight and empathy, that you have neglected the parts of yourself that are messy, selfish, angry, and chaotic. You have idealized your role as healer, as guide, as the one who understands, and in doing so, you have denied your own need to be selfish sometimes, to be misunderstood sometimes, not to care sometimes. The shadow INFJ is the one who manipulates rather than guides, who uses their insight as a weapon rather than a gift, who becomes bitter and resentful about all the care they have given that has not been reciprocated. You fear this shadow because you have seen glimpses of it in your darkest moments, when the exhaustion becomes too much, when the disappointment cuts too deep, when the loneliness overwhelms your capacity to keep giving. But the shadow is not your enemy. It is the repository of your unlived life, the parts of yourself that contain energy and vitality you have been too afraid to claim. To integrate the shadow is to accept that you can be both compassionate and ruthless, both selfless and self-protecting, both a healer and someone who sometimes needs healing more than they need to heal others. This is the work that most INFJs avoid, because it requires admitting that you are not always the person you have tried to become, that your noble self-image contains within it a seed of self-deception. But until you do this work, until you reclaim the shadow, and integrate it into your conscious life, you will remain divided against yourself, perpetually exhausted by the effort of maintaining an ideal that no human can sustain. The sixth weight is the weight of time itself, the painful awareness that your life is finite, and that you may never accomplish what you feel called to accomplish. The INFJ lives with an acute sense of mortality, not in the sense of fearing death, but in the sense of feeling the pressure of unlived potential. You have so much you want to create, so much you want to contribute, so many visions you want to bring into being, and you are painfully aware that time is running out, that you are already older than you meant to be before beginning, that the gap between your aspirations and your achievements widens with each passing year. This is not ordinary regret. This is existential anguish, the kind that Friedrich Nietzsche grappled with when he wrote of eternal recurrence, the thought experiment that asks, if you had to live your exact life, over and over again for eternity, would you be able to affirm it? For many INFJs, the answer is a painful no, not because their lives have been bad, but because they have been insufficient, smaller than the vision they carry, constrained by circumstances, and by their own inability to prioritize themselves over others. You have given so much of your time to other people's needs, other people's crises, other people's growth, and now you look at your own life and wonder where you are in all of it, where your dreams went, why you have not yet become the person you intended to be. And the cruelty of this awareness is that you cannot simply abandon your nature and start over. You cannot stop being someone who cares, who helps, who gives. But neither can you continue on the same path, because it is killing something essential in you, some spark of self that needs tending, needs space, needs permission to matter as much as everyone else matters. So what do you do with this wish, this ache to be anyone but yourself? You neither indulge in it nor deny it. You hold it as information, as a signal that something in your life needs to change. The wish to be different is not evidence that you are broken. It is evidence that you have been living in a way that dishonors your nature, that demands too much, and offers too little in return. It is evidence that you need boundaries you do not currently have, rest you are not allowing yourself, relationships that nourish rather than deplete you, and space to create rather than constantly respond. The path forward is not to become someone else, it is to become more fully yourself, which means reclaiming the parts of your nature you have neglected in service of others. It means learning to use your insight on your own behalf, to perceive your own needs with the same clarity you perceive others' needs. It means accepting that you cannot heal everyone, that you cannot save everyone, that some people will remain stuck despite your best efforts, and that their stuckness is not a reflection of your failure. It means understanding that your depth is a gift that should be offered selectively, to those who can receive it with respect and reciprocity, rather than scattered indiscriminately to anyone who asks. It means building a life that has space for your own complexity, your own contradictions, your own shadow. And yes, it means finding or creating community with others, who share your way of seeing, who understand without extensive explanation, who can witness your depth without being overwhelmed by it. Those people exist, though they are rare. And the search for them is worth the effort, because a connection built on mutual understanding is the antidote to the loneliness that has been eating at you for so long. If this story has resonated with you, if you have recognized yourself in these words, I want you to know that you are not alone in this struggle. Many of us carry this same weight, this same desire to be simpler, this same exhaustion from seeing too much and feeling too deeply. Please share your experience in the comments below. Tell us about the moments when you wished you were anyone but yourself, and tell us about the moments when you found ways to honor your nature instead of fighting it. We need to hear each other's stories, to know that this burden is shared, that we are not strange or broken, but simply living with a particular way of being, that the world does not always recognize or value. And if you want to continue this conversation, to explore more about what it means to live as an INFJ in a world that often misunderstands us, please subscribe to this channel. We are building a community here, a space where depth is welcomed rather than feared, where complexity is celebrated rather than simplified, where you can finally be seen in the same way you see others. You belong here,